I'm back, sort of. Let's get after it. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Craig Ben, aka Cash Keg here. Kind of back. Been battling a little sickness over the last week, but I hate being gone for so long. And I was hoping to be better by this Monday morning, but gonna try to knock this out real quick. I'm gonna go through all the different plays like we have been on this Monday Night Football, where we got the Raiders and the Chiefs here. Hopefully, we can find some value. We'll talk through it. And hopefully find 4 or 5 plays that we can hit. Because the last time I did this video, I think it was Thursday Night Football. We hit all 5, so hopefully we can continue that. Again, been out a while. Apologize if my voice is a little raspy, but I want to try to get through this because I miss doing these for you guys, and it feels a little weird not doing videos. So let's dive into this and see what we got. All right, like always, we got Prizepicks up here. You can download their app as well on the Google and Apple Store. If you don't have an account, use that promo code DFSArmy and get 100% instant deposit match up to $100. And we'll just go through all the plays here on Monday Night Football. It should be a good one here. I do think this Vegas team is better than they've shown, and with all their pieces kind of a little bit healthy, I do think we can find some plays here. And I think this game will be closer than people expect. First here for pass yards, looking at Mahomes and Derek Carr. Kind of look at Derek Carr. He's went over this mark in 2 of the 4 games this year, putting up 295 against the Chargers, put up 303 against Tennessee, 252 against Arizona, and then only $188 against Denver back on October 2nd. And then we look at KC. They gave up 385 against Brady back on the 2nd. Gave up 334 to Herbert, only 222 to Ryan, and then held Kyler Murray to 193. So I do like the over here. A lot of the books are sitting around 275. And, you know, he played KC twice last year, put up 261 and 263. I think, you know, the line's probably about right. I would lean the over on this one, but nothing that I really, really love. Patrick Mahomes, kind of the same thing here. Line's about 280. A lot of the books out there. He's only went over this in 1 of the 4 games. The first game he played Arizona. I don't really want to touch it here. He did play Vegas twice last year, put up 406 on November 14th and only 258 on the 12th. They can go a lot of different ways here. They can go with that running game, or they can go, you know, pass heavy. So I'm going to stay with this one. If you're going to pick one of these, I would definitely go Derek Carr, more than 265.5. Rush yards, I do like Derek Carr's over 7.5, to be honest with you here. If we're kind of looking at this, the juice is a little bit over, minus 120 on the 7.5. He's went over this in 4 of his last 5 games. He had 40 against Denver. But if they do get to him, I can see pushing this to more than 7.5. I do like that. Don't really like Mahomes rushing. The line's at 18.5. A lot of books out there. He's only went over it in 2 of the 4 games. That pass rush has to get to him, you know, for him to get out of the pocket. He went over it once of the 2 games last year. I wouldn't touch this one. I do like the Derek Carr one, though. I do think they're going to try to get to him. If they're playing catch up, you know, more attempts for him to get out there and run. So I don't mind more than that. Josh Jacobs, a 60.5. Casey's actually been pretty good against the run here. If we kind of look what they've done to a lot of the backs, you know, I mean, if we just look what they did to Fournette, I mean, they threw the ball a ton. The line was 71.5 last week to Fournette, and he put up -3 rushing yards. Now, I don't expect that here, but Josh Jacobs, you know, Jonathan Taylor, the line was at 97.5 on the 25th when KC played him. He only put up 71 yards. If we look at Austin Eckler, the game before that when they played the Chargers, the line was 57.5. He only put up 39 rushing yards. James Conner, line was 59.5. He only put up 26. And they've held them really good. Last year, only 16 rushing yards on November 14th and 24 rushing yards on December 12th. So they've done a real good job of holding him back. So I do like less than 16.5 rush yards for Josh Jacobs. I think they're going to throw the ball a little bit more. I'm not going to touch Edwards-Helaire here or Pacheco. I don't think I want to go there because they can go a bunch of different ways. I could see a spot where Edwards-Helaire crushes this. I could see a spot where he doesn't, and I think there's too much risk there. I'd much rather take Carr and Jacobs here for the rushing yards. Kind of look at a little bit at the receiving receiving yards. Another again, Jacobs. I since I'm less than 16.5 yards, I do like the the reception yards from him, and a lot of that has to do with, he's been involved in the game a ton over the last 2 games. If we kind of looked what he's been doing, the line's at 20.5 at a lot of the books out there, and if he's put up 31 the last 2 games, and just getting those targets, and he's got 6 targets in the last 2 games. Did in the first 2 games, but again, in a spot like this, I think he can get there. He put up 20 and 46 in the last 2 games against KC last year. I do like this spot for receiving yards for him. Edwards-Helaire, again, KC's really tough because they can do so many different things. So I'm going to stay away from him. I do like taking Kelsey here. Juju had a hamstring injury. He's going to play tonight, but maybe that'll limit him. And there is some spots where Kelsey can go over this spot. Ertz put up over 75 yards against him, which is, Ertz is a good tight end, but he's definitely not, Travis Kelsey here. So, and then if we look at, even before that, Gerald Everett put up 54 yards against them. So I do think it's a spot he can get there. He put up 119 last year in November, but only 27 in that December game. But I do like him a lot here. It's a different team as well, right? They had Tyreek Hill last year. So I think they get him involved a lot here. So I do like that. I would lean, maybe you want to take, if Juju's, maybe lean under 52.5 here. Just because if that hamstring can pick up at any time, and if he's out on the field, maybe they use him more as a decoy a little bit. Not touching McKinnon, Gray, I'm not touching. And then on the other side, looking at Adams, Waller, and Renfro, I think they can go a bunch of different ways. And even Hollins is getting involved too as well. So I don't really want to touch these guys so much. I prefer Jacobs. I prefer Kelsey if you're taking one. We'll throw Kelsey in here in this one. But don't really want to mess with these other guys very much. If we kind of look at reception-wise, and we look at Josh Jacobs at 3, again, I'm not going to touch this one because I prefer those other 2 that I talked about. Edwards-Helaire at 3 receptions, a spot that I'm not going to really touch there because, again, it can go a lot of different ways. I do like taking receptions under 5 here with him. Again, if that hamstring is bothering him at all, maybe it's a spot that he just doesn't catch that many balls. And he's only went over it once in the last 5 games, but not a super strong play. And again, when it comes to Adams, Waller, and Renfro, there's just a lot of ways that can go. If we look at, I apologize here, man, I really am. The games that Adams has played in the 4 games, the Chargers, man, that first game, he went 10 for 17. Arizona hardly ever saw the ball, 2 of 7, and then 5 for 10 and 9 for 13. So the targets are there for him. So at the 7 reception mark, I don't mind looking at it. They've given up some big, yardage totals and receptions to some of these guys. Mike Evans last week and Chris Godwin put up 8 and 7 receptions respectively. And like I talked about, I like the Josh Jacobs, but I prefer the yards, but even receptions, Leonard Fournette had 7 receptions against him last week. And then we go back to Indy. Pittman had 8 receptions. And then Jonathan Taylor had 3. So it's like, I would like to look at, if you want to take Adams, I prefer this over the yards because he's going to get his target, right? If we look at even back in the Chargers, we look at Mike Williams putting up 8 receptions. Eckler had 9 out of the backfield. So these are the guys I would look at if I was looking at, maybe we'll put Adams hip receptions. It's going to be hard for me to think they don't go to him, but they do have a lot of weapons here, and that's 4 plays we have up here. My voice is getting a little raspy. I apologize again. I'm trying to get through this. Field goals made 1.5. I think I like the kicking points more at 6.5. If you want to look at that, if you're trying to choose one. Reception touchdowns. I really wanted Adams, but they only have 1 up here. So Kelsey, I don't mind taking a shot, but I think there's a little bit too much risk compared to his yards receiving. Pass touchdowns, man, I can just never trust Carr, but if they're going to slow the rundown, and we do like, it's a good correlation with Jacobs, less than 6.5 rush yards if we look at 1.5 pass touchdowns. So it's something we can look at. And then pass attempts, 38.5, 36.5. Again, one of those things where I don't love it, but, if I had to lean one, it would be, Carr 38.5. Just because I think if they're going to shut down that run, he's going to have to throw more. And he did put up 35 and 45 in the 2 games he played last year against them. So I think these are the 4 that I like. Again, if you want to throw that kicking points in there, I don't mind that. Not really going to touch rushing attempts on both of these guys. Yeah, and that's where I'm kind of going to leave it at. I wish we had the reception touchdowns where we could go on Adams here. Kind of look at the pass and rush yards of this. I don't love it. Again, rushing reception yards on here. I just don't like the rushing yards at all for Jacobs here. I do think they try to stop him. So don't love that. And if we look at fantasy score, you can always look at Mahomes at 22. He can always put up a monster game. Feels like a little light on Derek Carr at 18, honestly. And then again, Carlson, I just prefer the 6.5 over the 8 fantasy score. But I do think they're going to stall a little bit in the red zone where he'll have to kick a little bit against KC here, which I think is going to be a little bit closer game. So those are some plays I do like. Again, I appreciate you hanging out with me. I'm sorry I haven't been doing these for a while, but I'm trying to get back into it and still trying to fight this sickness. So again, appreciate each and every one of you guys. Hopefully this helps you guys out a little bit, and let's enjoy a little bit of football. See you guys on the flip side. Deuces.